When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war. The morning started like any other on Colony Station Harmony. Children from 17 different species played together in the vast recreation dome, their laughter echoing through the transparent aluminum walls that showed the beautiful blue-green world of Kepler 442b spinning slowly below them. Sarah Chen watched the children with a warm smile, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. At 63, she had spent the last 30 years of her life running what the galaxy called Earth's Orphanage, the only interspecies adoption center in known space. Here, children who had lost their families to war, disease, or simple abandonment found new homes among the stars. "Miss Sarah," called out Zephyr, a young Altarian with silver skin and 4 arms, currently being chased by Tommy, a human boy with bright red hair. "Tommy says humans can run faster than Altarians, but that's not true, right?" Sarah chuckled. "Why don't you both race to the climbing wall and find out?" The children squealed with delight and ran off, their different physiologies making for an amusing sight. Zephyr's 4 arms pumped rhythmically while Tommy's longer human legs gave him an advantage in stride length. Other children followed, cheering for their favorites. The station housed nearly 800 children at any given time. Some stayed for weeks, others for years. The lucky ones found families. The unlucky ones grew up here, eventually joining the staff or finding their own paths among the stars. Sarah had seen thousands of children pass through these halls, each one leaving a mark on her heart. "Director Chen," came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's chief medical officer, approaching with a concerned expression. "We need to talk privately." Sarah's smile faded. Marcus only used her title when something was seriously wrong. She followed him to her office, a modest space filled with photos of children who had found homes, letters from grateful families, and small gifts from a dozen worlds. "What is it, Marcus?" Sarah asked, settling behind her desk. Marcus activated the privacy screen and sat down heavily. "I've been monitoring the Galactic communication networks. There's something happening. Something big." Sarah leaned forward. "What kind of something?" "The hegemony is mobilizing. Not just their usual border disputes or trade enforcement. This is different. Admiral Thexkar himself is commanding a fleet of over 2,000 ships. Intelligence suggests they're heading for the Sol system." The blood drained from Sarah's face. The hegemony was a coalition of 12 species that controlled nearly 40% of known space. They were militaristic, expansionist, and had always viewed humanity's rapid spread among the stars with suspicion. "The Sol system meant Earth, home, but why?" Sarah whispered. "The peace accords have held for 20 years. Earth has been nothing but cooperative with interspecies relations. This station alone proves that." Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. "The official reason is human territorial violations and aggressive expansion. But the real reason—" He paused, his face grim. "They've discovered the true nature of human military capabilities." Sarah's heart sank. She knew what Marcus was referring to. During the peace negotiations 2 decades ago, humanity had deliberately downplayed their military strength. They had shown the galaxy their merchant marines, their exploration fleets, their rescue services. They had never revealed the true extent of their military-industrial complex, hidden in asteroid belts and concealed within seemingly civilian installations. "They think we're weak," Sarah said quietly. "They think you're a threat that needs to be eliminated before you become too strong," Marcus corrected. "The hegemony has convinced half the galaxy that humans are secretly building a war machine to conquer everyone else." A chime sounded, indicating an incoming priority transmission. Sarah's personal communicator displayed the seal of Earth's colonial administration. She accepted the call, and the holographic image of Admiral Rebecca Torres materialized above her desk. "Sarah," Admiral Torres said without preamble, "you need to evacuate the station immediately." "Rebecca, what's happening?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. "The hegemony has issued an ultimatum. All human-operated facilities outside the Sol system have 72 hours to surrender or be destroyed. That includes Harmony Station." Sarah felt the world spinning around her. "They can't be serious. This is a children's home, not a military installation. We have 800 kids here, Rebecca, kids from their own species." Admiral Torres's expression was granite hard. "They don't care, Sarah. In their eyes, you're teaching alien children to think like humans. They see it as cultural contamination. But the families that adopted children from here, the governments that supported us, are staying silent. Admiral Torres cut her off. They're too afraid of the hegemony to speak up. You're on your own out there. Sarah stood up, her mind racing. What about evacuation?
Can you send ships?
Every human vessel within 50 light years is being recalled to defend Earth. The hegemony isn't just targeting the station. Sarah, they're planning to hit every human colony, every space station, every outpost. They want to cripple us before we can respond. The room fell silent except for the distant sounds of children playing. Sarah looked out her window at the recreation dome where hundreds of young lives continued their innocent games, unaware that their world was about to change forever. How long do we have? Sarah asked quietly. 46 hours until the hegemony fleet reaches your position. I'm sorry, Sarah, I'm so damn sorry. The connection ended, leaving Sarah alone with Marcus in the sudden quiet of her office. She could hear her heart beating, could hear the station's life support systems humming, could hear the echo of children's laughter from the dome. Sarah, Marcus said gently, what are we going to do? Sarah stood up slowly, her mind already working through possibilities. She had spent 30 years protecting children, finding them homes, keeping them safe. She wasn't about to stop now. We're going to save every single child on this station, she said firmly, and then we're going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens Earth's children. Marcus looked confused. But how? We don't have military ships, we don't have weapons. Sarah walked to her desk and opened a drawer that hadn't been opened in 20 years. Inside was a single data chip marked with the seal of Earth's Defense Force. She had hoped never to use it. Marcus, she said quietly, there are things about humanity's history that most people don't know. Things we've kept hidden for the sake of peace. She held up the chip. This contains the real story of why the galaxy should be very, very afraid of making humanity angry. Outside the window, the children continued to play, unaware that their laughter was about to become the battle cry of a species that had just remembered what it meant to protect its young. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war. The data chip contained memories that Sarah had tried to forget. As the holographic display filled her office with classified files, she watched Marcus's face change from confusion to horror to something approaching awe. These numbers can't be real, Marcus whispered, staring at production capacity reports, ship manifests, and weapon specifications that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. They're real, Sarah said quietly. Every human colony, every asteroid mining operation, every civilian manufacturing facility. We've been building for 20 years hoping we'd never need it. The files showed the truth that humanity had hidden from the galaxy. While other species saw humans as peaceful explorers and traders, Earth had been secretly constructing the largest military-industrial complex in known space. Asteroid belts had been hollowed out and converted into shipyards. Mining colonies were actually weapons factories. The civilian cargo haulers that traveled between human worlds could be converted to warships within hours. Look at this, Marcus said, pointing to a file labeled Project Shepherd. Automated defense platforms disguised as communication satellites. There are thousands of them throughout human space. Sarah nodded. And this. She highlighted another file. The Merchant Marine Fleet. Every single cargo ship is built to military specifications. They carry hidden weapon systems, reinforced armor, and emergency military command codes. But the most shocking revelation was the last file, population and service records. Nearly 60% of the adult human population had military training. Earth maintained the pretense of a small defense force, while actually having the largest trained military in the galaxy, disguised as civilians. We're not a peaceful species playing at war, Sarah realized aloud. We're a warrior species that learned to play at peace. An alert chimed on Sarah's desk. The long-range sensors had detected the approaching hegemony fleet. 43 hours and counting. Sarah, we need to start evacuating the children, Marcus said urgently. With what ships? Sarah asked. The few transport vessels we have can't carry 800 children, and the hegemony will destroy any ship that tries to leave. Marcus fell silent. The math was brutal and simple. They didn't have enough ships, they didn't have enough time, and they didn't have any military protection. Sarah stood up and activated her personal communicator. This is Director Sarah Chen of Harmony Station to all Earth Defense Force vessels. Authorization code Shepherd 77 Alpha. The response came immediately. Director Chen, This is Captain Elizabeth Park aboard the cargo hauler Peaceful Horizon. We're currently 40 million kilometers from your position. What's your situation? Captain, how many ships do you have in your convoy? 17 cargo haulers, ma'am. We're carrying agricultural supplies to the outer colonies, but we received recall orders 20 minutes ago. Sarah smiled grimly. Captain Park, I'm transmitting emergency authorization codes. Execute Protocol Guardian immediately. There was a pause. Ma'am, are you certain? Guardian protocols mean, I know what they mean, Captain. We have 800 children aboard this station, and 43 hours before the hegemony arrives. Execute Guardian protocols now. Understood, Director. Guardian protocols are now active. All civilian ships in this convoy are now under military command. Estimated arrival time at your position, 6 hours. Sarah closed the connection and turned to Marcus, who was staring at her with new understanding. You're not just a station director, he said slowly. Retired Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force, she confirmed. I ran refugee operations during the Proxima conflict before I came here. The children were supposed to be my retirement, Marcus. A chance to save lives instead of ending them. Another communication came in, this time on an encrypted military channel. Sarah's breath caught when she saw who was calling. Sarah Chen, came a voice she hadn't heard in 20 years. This is Fleet Admiral James Harrison. I hear you're in trouble. Admiral Harrison had been Sarah's commanding officer during the war. He was also the architect of Earth's hidden military buildup, the man who had convinced the government to prepare for this exact scenario. James, Sarah said, relief flooding her voice. Please tell me you have good news. I have complicated news. The hegemony fleet is larger than we anticipated. 3,000 ships, not 2,000. But they've made a critical mistake. Harrison's image appeared on the holographic display, his weathered face serious but determined. They think they're attacking isolated human outposts. They don't know about our hidden capabilities. More importantly, they don't understand human psychology. What do you mean? Sarah asked. They're attacking children, Sarah. Human children and children under human protection. Do you remember what happened during the Proxima conflict when the raiders hit the colony schools? Sarah's blood ran cold. She remembered. The human response had been swift, brutal, and absolute. Every raider base within 50 light-years had been reduced to atomic dust within a week. The moment word spreads about what they're doing to Harmony Station, Harrison continued, every human in the galaxy is going to remember why we used to be the most feared species in this part of space. Sarah understood. For 20 years, humanity had played the role of peaceful traders and explorers. They had been so successful that even they had started to believe it. But attacking children, threatening the innocent, that would awaken something that had been sleeping in the human psyche. What do you need from me, James? Sarah asked. Hold that station for as long as you can. Every minute you keep those children safe is another minute for the word to spread. Another minute for our people to remember who they really are. How long? 72 hours minimum. Can you do it? Sarah looked out at the recreation dome where children were still playing. She thought about the 17 cargo ships racing toward them, about the hidden weapons and defenses that would soon be revealed, about the choice between saving 800 lives and staying hidden. James, by the time this is over, the galaxy is going to know exactly what humans are capable of. I'm counting on it, Harrison replied. Because after they attack Earth's orphanage, they're going to discover that humanity has been holding back for 20 years. And now they've given us a reason to stop. Sarah ended the call and turned to Marcus. Get me a shipwide communication channel. It's time to tell the children what's really happening. As Marcus worked, Sarah walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 3,000 enemy ships were coming to destroy everything she had built, but they were about to discover that attacking human children was the one thing that could unite her entire species in righteous fury. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had once been called the sleeping giants of space, and Sarah Chen, retired admiral turned orphanage director, was going to be the one to wake them up. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war. The main assembly hall had never been used for anything like this. 800 children from 17 different species sat in worried clusters, their usual chatter replaced by anxious whispers. The older kids sensed something was wrong. The younger ones just knew the adults were scared. Sarah stood at the front of the hall, looking out at faces she had watched grow up, children she had tucked into bed, teenagers she had helped through their first heartbreaks. Behind her, a holographic display showed the approaching hegemony fleet, now just 38 hours away. "I need to tell you all something very important," Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Some very bad people are coming here. They want to hurt us because they're afraid of humans and they don't like that we take care of children from different planets." A small vegan child with purple fur raised her hand. "But Miss Sarah, why would they want to hurt children?" Sarah's heart ached. "Because sometimes, Kira, people do terrible things when they're scared. But I want you all to know something very important. We are not going to let them hurt you." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some of the older children looked skeptical. They knew how big the galaxy was, how powerful the hegemony was supposed to be. But how? Asked David, a 16-year-old human who had been at the station for 3 years. "We don't have any weapons. We're just a kid's home," Sarah smiled. And for the first time in years, it was the smile of Admiral Sarah Chen, not Director Sarah Chen. "David, let me tell you a story about humans that most people don't know." She activated the holographic display, showing images of Earth's hidden military installations, the disguised cargo ships, the secret weapons platforms scattered throughout human space. For 20 years, humans have been pretending to be something we're not. We let the galaxy think we were just peaceful explorers and traders. But the truth is, humans are very good at protecting the people we care about, especially children. The display showed real-time feeds of the 17 cargo ships approaching the station. As they watched, the ships began to transform. Cargo pods split open to reveal missile launchers. Hull plating shifted to expose particle beam arrays. What had looked like harmless merchant vessels were revealing themselves as fully armed warships. "These ships were always warships," Sarah explained. "We just kept them disguised as cargo haulers. And there are thousands more like them throughout human space." Zephyr, the young Altarian with 4 arms, stood up. "You mean humans have been lying to everyone?" "Not lying," Sarah said carefully. "We've been hoping we'd never need to show our true strength. But when someone threatens our children, everything changes." The display switched to show communication feeds from across the galaxy. Human colonies were receiving word of the hegemony's attack. The response was immediate and overwhelming. On world after world, civilian facilities were revealing their true nature. Mining stations deployed hidden defense platforms. Agricultural colonies activated concealed missile silos. The peaceful human merchant fleet was transforming into the largest battle fleet the galaxy had ever seen. "The hegemony made a mistake," Sarah continued. "They thought attacking children would make humans afraid. Instead, they've reminded every human in the galaxy what we're really fighting for." Tommy, the red-haired human boy, raised his hand. "Miss Sarah, are we going to be okay?" Sarah knelt down to his level, meeting his eyes. "Tommy, I want you to understand something. The people coming here think they're going to find a helpless space station with no defenses and no way to fight back. What they're actually going to find is 800 children, protected by the most dangerous species in the galaxy." A new voice cut through the hall, and the station's communication system announcing an incoming message. Captain Park's face appeared on the display. "Director Chen, this is Captain Park. My squadron has arrived and we're beginning defensive positioning around the station. I have to say, ma'am, when we got the order to protect Earth's orphanage, every ship in the convoy volunteered immediately. We've also got some unexpected company." The display showed the space around Harmony Station. 17 converted warships had taken up defensive positions, but they weren't alone. Dozens of other ships were arriving. More cargo haulers, mining vessels, and research ships that were revealing their true military nature. "It seems word has spread throughout human space," Captain Park continued. "We've got volunteers arriving from 6 different sectors. Current count is 83 ships and growing." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. These were civilians, farmers, miners, merchants, teachers, who had dropped everything to race across space when they heard that children were in danger. "There's more, Director," Captain Park said. "We're receiving communication from non-human ships as well. Several Altarian vessels have requested permission to join our defensive formation. Apparently they have children who were adopted from your station." On the display, Sarah could see 3 graceful Altarian cruisers taking position alongside the human ships. Then came 2 massive vegan cargo haulers, their crews declaring that they owed humanity a debt for caring for their orphaned young. A squadron of Rigelian fighters appeared, followed by ships from half a dozen other species. "It appears," Captain Park said with barely contained emotion, "that the galaxy remembers who takes care of their children when no one else will." The children in the assembly hall were staring in amazement at the growing fleet outside their home. Species that rarely cooperated were working together, united by a simple principle: protecting the innocent. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The communication display was showing alerts from across human space. The hidden military infrastructure was fully activating for the first time in 20 years. Asteroid shipyards were launching vessels that had been under construction in secret. Defense platforms that had masqueraded as civilian installations were powering up weapons that could shatter moons. "Miss Sarah," said Kira, the small Vegan child, "are the bad people going to be sorry they came here?" Sarah looked out at the growing fleet, at the determined faces of her staff, at the children who trusted her to keep them safe. She thought about Admiral Harrison's words, about humanity's true nature, about what happened when someone threatened human children. "Yes, Kira," Sarah said softly. "They're going to be very, very sorry." The display chimed with another incoming message. This one was from Fleet Admiral Harrison himself. "Sarah, I hope you're watching the tactical displays. The hegemony fleet is maintaining course, but something's changed. Our deep space monitors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Every hidden installation, every disguised ship, every secret weapon we've built over the past 20 years is coming online." Harrison's face was grim but determined. The hegemony wanted to see what humans do when cornered. "They're about to find out. Hold your position, Sarah. The cavalry is coming." As if summoned by his words, the space around Harmony Station began to fill with ships. Not dozens, but hundreds. The sleeping giant of humanity was finally awakening, and its first thought was to protect its children. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed. Total War Admiral Thexkar stood on the bridge of the hegemony flagship Dominance, his four eyes studying the tactical display with growing confusion. Intelligence reports had indicated that Harmony Station was a lightly defended civilian facility. The readings he was seeing now told a very different story. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting over 300 ships in defensive formation around the station. Energy signatures suggest they're fully armed military vessels." Thexkar's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Impossible. Human space barely has 50 military ships total according to our intelligence. These must be converted civilian vessels with minimal weapons." "Sir, I'm reading weapon signatures that match or exceed our own capital ship armaments. Some of these vessels are showing energy outputs higher than our dreadnoughts." The Admiral's confidence began to waver. For 20 years, the hegemony had watched humanity spread across the galaxy like a plague of peaceful explorers. They traded, they explored, they built schools and hospitals and research stations. They seemed soft, weak, unprepared for real war. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," Thexkar ordered. The main display filled with the image of a human female in military dress. Her hair was gray, her face was lined with age, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made several bridge officers step back instinctively. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the defense of Harmony Station," the human said. "You have 60 seconds to change course and leave this system, or we will consider your fleet a hostile force threatening the lives of 800 children." Thexkar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Human, you are outnumbered 10 to 1. Your pathetic defense fleet cannot hope to stand against the might of the hegemony." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Admiral, you made two critical mistakes. First, you assumed that what you can see is all we have. Second, you decided to threaten children under human protection. Your threats are meaningless," Thexkar snarled. "We will crush your fleet and claim this station as proof of human weakness." 45 seconds, Sarah said calmly. Thexkar cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the attack. Target their command ships first." But as the hegemony fleet moved into attack formation, space around them began to change. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with contacts. Hundreds of objects that sensors had dismissed as asteroids or space debris were powering up, revealing themselves as heavily armed defense platforms. "Admiral," the sensor officer shouted, "we're detecting massive energy spikes throughout the system. Over 2,000 new contacts appearing on sensors." The tactical display updated in real time, showing the true scope of human preparation. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt were shipyards that had been building vessels in secret for decades, camouflaged weapons platforms that had masqueraded as mining equipment were rotating to face the hegemony fleet. Most shocking of all, the planets themselves were revealing hidden military installations. "This is impossible," Thexkar whispered. "Our intelligence showed no military presence here." His communications officer was frantically trying to reach Hegemony Command. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across human space. Every system we're attacking is showing similar defensive capabilities. Our fleets are reporting enemy numbers far exceeding intelligence estimates." On the main display, Admiral Sarah Chen's image reappeared. "Time's up, Admiral. You wanted to see what humans do when you threaten our children. Let me show you." The space around Harmony Station erupted in coordinated violence. The human fleet didn't wait for the hegemony to get within optimal weapons range. Instead, they opened fire at maximum distance with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Particle. Beams that could punch through capital ship armor at ranges that violated known physics lit up the void. Missiles with impossible acceleration curves and devastating warheads turned the first wave of hegemony fighters into expanding clouds of plasma. "Their weapons," the tactical officer stammered. "Sir, their weapons are decades ahead of anything in our databases." Thexkar was beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. "Get me Intelligence Command now." The holographic image of Intelligence Director Vex Hoon appeared, his expression grim. "Admiral, we've been analyzing the human response across all fronts. Our assessment was catastrophically wrong." "Explain," Thexkar demanded while explosions lit up the space around his ship. "For 20 years, we've been watching human trade ships, exploration vessels, and civilian installations. What we didn't realize is that every single one of those ships and facilities was designed with hidden military capabilities. Their entire civilization is a military force disguised as civilians." The tactical display showed the truth of those words. Human cargo ships were revealing weapon systems that outgunned hegemony cruisers. Mining stations were deploying missile arrays that could threaten entire fleets. Research facilities were launching fighter squadrons that moved with impossible speed and precision. "But that's not the worst part," Director Vexhun continued. "Our attacks on their colonies and stations have had an unexpected effect. We're receiving reports of human civilian populations voluntarily joining military operations. Every adult human apparently has military training." Thexkar watched as another wing of his fighters was annihilated by weapons fire from what his sensors still insisted was a civilian merchant vessel. "How many military assets do they actually have?" "Based on current observations, Admiral, we estimate that humanity has been secretly maintaining the largest military force in the galaxy. Conservative estimates put their true fleet strength at over 50,000 vessels." The bridge fell silent except for the sound of alarms as another hegemony ship exploded under human fire. 50,000 vessels. The entire hegemony combined fleet was only 12,000 ships. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a system-wide broadcast from the human fleet, all frequencies." Admiral Sarah Chen's voice filled the bridge, but this time she wasn't speaking just to Thexkar. She was speaking to every ship in both fleets, every species represented in the battle. "To all non-human vessels currently fighting alongside the hegemony," Sarah said, "you came here to attack a children's home. 800 innocent kids from your own species live on this station. They are safe under human protection, as they have been for 30 years. Ask yourselves, is this really what you want to be remembered for?" The tactical display began to show something unprecedented. Ships from the hegemony fleet were breaking formation, powering down weapons, and broadcasting surrender signals. Captains who had children adopted from Harmony Station were refusing to continue the attack. Others were simply horrified at the realization that they were attacking a facility that cared for orphaned children. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're losing fleet cohesion. Over 400 ships have ceased offensive operations." Thexkar stared at the display in growing horror. His overwhelming numerical advantage was evaporating as his own allies turned against him. And through it all, the human fleet continued, its relentless, precise assault, demonstrating military capabilities that shouldn't have existed. Admiral Sarah Chen's image appeared one final time. "Admiral Thexkar, You came here expecting to find a helpless orphanage defended by a weak species. Instead, you found 800 children protected by the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. I'm going to give you one last chance to surrender." Thexkar looked at his crumbling fleet, at the impossible human weapons tearing through his ships, at the allies who were abandoning him rather than attack children. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Sarah's smile was cold as the void between stars. "Then you'll discover why humanity spent 20 years pretending to be peaceful. We weren't weak, Admiral. We were just giving everyone else a chance to be better." When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war. The battle for Harmony Station lasted exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. By the end, Admiral Thexkar's mighty fleet of 3,000 ships had been reduced to scattered survivors broadcasting surrender signals, as fast as their communication systems could transmit them. Sarah stood in the station's command center, watching the tactical display as human ships moved to secure hegemony prisoners and disabled vessels. Around her, the children of 17 species were finally returning to their normal activities, though many of them kept pressing their faces to the windows to watch the impossible sight outside. "Director Chen," Captain Park reported from the flagship, "we have Admiral Thexkar in custody." "What are your orders?" Sarah considered the question carefully. The easy answer would be to hand him over to the Galactic courts, let the legal system deal with him. But Sarah had been a military officer long before she became a caretaker, and she understood the value of making a statement. "Bring him to the station," Sarah ordered. "I want him to see exactly what he tried to destroy." An hour later, Admiral Thexkar stood in Harmony Station's main recreation dome, his 4 eyes wide with something approaching shock. Around him, hundreds of children played, laughed, and learned together. Human children taught Altarian youngsters how to play baseball. Vegan cubs showed their human friends how to paint with their tails. Frigelian adolescents helped smaller children reach the high climbing equipment. "This is what you came to destroy," Sarah said quietly, standing beside the captured admiral. "A place where children from across the galaxy learn that they don't have to hate each other." Thexkar's mandibles clicked nervously. You're using them as propaganda tools, teaching them to think like humans." Sarah turned to face him and her expression was both sad and angry. "Admiral, watch them. Really watch them." She pointed to a group near the center of the dome where Tommy, the red-haired human boy, was playing with Zephyr, the young Altarian. They were building something with colorful blocks, their different physiologies creating challenges that they solved through cooperation and laughter. "That Altarian child arrived here 3 years ago," Sarah explained. "His parents died in a mining accident. He was traumatized, angry, afraid of everything and everyone. Tommy was the first person to make him smile. Not because we taught them to ignore their differences, but because we taught them that their differences make them stronger together." Thexkar watched as more children joined the building project. A small vegan cub with purple fur contributed blocks that matched her natural coloring. A young Rigelian used her species' natural precision to place delicate components. A human girl with cybernetic implants, probably a war orphan, helped coordinate the construction. "They're not being taught to think like humans," Sarah continued. "They're being taught to think like people who care about each other." The Admiral's attention was drawn to another group where older children were working on what appeared to be homework. A teenage hegemony Korthak, one of Thexkar's own species, was helping a human boy with mathematics while a human girl assisted 2 Altarian twins with language studies. "That Korthak boy," Sarah said, noticing his gaze. "His name is Vector. His family was killed in a terrorist attack on Hegemony Prime 5 years ago. No one in Hegemony space would take him, because his parents had been political dissidents. We took him in." Thexkar's voice was barely a whisper. "But he's their enemy species?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "They're children. The only enemy here is the hatred that adults teach them." A communication alert chimed and Sarah activated her personal communicator. Fleet Admiral Harrison's image appeared, his expression grim but satisfied. "Sarah, I'm getting reports from across the galaxy. The hegemony assault has been completely repelled. Their total losses are over 80% of their fleet strength. Our losses..." He paused, obviously checking reports. 17 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Total casualties: 41 humans killed, 112 wounded. Thexkar stared at the holographic display in disbelief. "That's impossible. We had numerical superiority." You had numbers, Harrison replied, having heard the comment. We had 20 years of preparation and something worth fighting for. His image focused on Thexkar. Admiral, I hope you understand what you've accomplished today. For 2 decades, humanity has been content to remain a regional power, focused on exploration and trade. You've just forced us to reveal our true capabilities to the entire galaxy. Sarah gestured toward the children still playing in the dome. James, what's the political situation? Fluid and changing rapidly, Harrison admitted. Half the hegemony member species are demanding immediate peace negotiations. The other half are calling for total war. But here's the interesting part. Most of the galaxy's independent worlds are sending diplomatic missions to Earth, requesting mutual defense treaties. They're scared, Sarah realized. Terrified, Harrison confirmed. For the first time in galactic history, there's a single species that can defeat any alliance arrayed against it. But Sarah, there's something else you need to know. Sarah's expression grew concerned. What is it? The children's families, the ones who adopted from Harmony Station over the years, they're organizing. Governments across the galaxy are receiving petitions from their own citizens, demanding protection for the station and punishment for anyone who threatens it. The implications hit Sarah immediately. In 30 years of operation, Harmony Station had placed over 15,000 children with families across the galaxy. Those children were now adults with children of their own. They remembered the human caretakers who had saved them, loved them, given them hope when they had none. It gets better, Harrison continued. We're receiving volunteer applications from over 200 species. They want to help staff human facilities, contribute to our defense, join our exploration missions. Apparently, the galaxy has decided that the species that protects children is the species they want to ally with. Thexkar sank into a nearby chair, his defeat complete. We've created a monster, he whispered. No, Sarah corrected gently. You've revealed what humanity becomes when someone threatens what we love. The monster was always there, Admiral. We just chose to keep it sleeping. A small voice interrupted their conversation. Miss Sarah? It was Kira, the small vegan child with purple fur. Is the scary man going to hurt us? Sarah knelt down to the child's level, her expression softening completely. No, sweetheart. The scary man was confused. He thought we were bad people, but now he understands that we just take care of children. Kira looked at Thexkar with curious eyes. Are you sorry you tried to hurt us? The Admiral stared at the small child, seeing in her innocent face everything his actions could have destroyed. Here was a vegan cub who had been raised with love and care by humans, who felt safe enough to approach the very being who had come to kill her. Yes, Thexkar said quietly. I am very sorry, Kira smiled brightly. That's okay. Miss Sarah says everyone makes mistakes. Do you want to see what we built? She pointed to the elaborate structure the children had constructed, a colorful tower that incorporated design elements from a dozen different cultures. As Thexkar allowed himself to be led away by the small child, Sarah returned her attention to Admiral Harrison. James, what happens now? Now we have a choice, Sarah. We can return to hiding our capabilities, pretend this was a one-time mobilization, or we can accept our new role as the galaxy's dominant military power. Sarah looked around the recreation dome, at children from 17 species playing together without fear or hatred, at the proof that different worlds could coexist in peace. There's a third option, she said slowly. We use our strength to make sure no child anywhere in the galaxy has to grow up afraid. Harrison smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The Defense Council is meeting tomorrow to discuss the formation of the Galactic Protection Service. We want you to head it up. James, I'm not a general anymore. I'm just someone who takes care of kids. Sarah, you just commanded the defense of 800 children against overwhelming odds and won a victory that changed the balance of power in the galaxy. I'd say taking care of kids is exactly the qualification we need. As Harrison's image faded, Sarah watched Thexkar sitting on the floor with a group of children, listening as they explained the rules of their game. The former admiral who had come to destroy the station was now learning how to play with the very children he had tried to kill. Dr. Marcus Webb approached, having watched the entire exchange. So what happens to him? He asked, nodding toward Thexkar. Sarah smiled. We do what we always do, Marcus. We show him that there's a better way. Outside the dome, the human fleet maintained its protective formation around Harmony Station. But they were no longer alone. Ships from dozens of species had joined them, forming the first truly integrated galactic defense force in history. The galaxy had learned what happened when someone threatened Earth's children. Now they were about to learn what happened when Earth decided to protect everyone's children. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war 6 months after the Battle of Harmony Station. The galaxy was a very different place. Sarah stood in the newly constructed command center of the Galactic Protection Service headquarters, watching status reports from across known space. What had started as the defense of a single orphanage had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. Director Chen, came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Captain Elizabeth Park, now promoted to Admiral and serving as Sarah's second in command. The morning briefing is ready. Sarah nodded and followed Park into the main briefing room. The assembled officers represented 43 different species, all united under the banner of the GPS. At the head of the table sat an unlikely figure, former Admiral Thexkar, now wearing the uniform of a GPS rehabilitation specialist. Status report, Sarah requested. Admiral Park activated the holographic display. Current GPS fleet strength stands at 12,000 vessels from 87 member species. We have operational bases in over 300 systems and mutual defense treaties with 2/3 of the galaxy's independent worlds. The display showed the true scope of what humanity had unleashed. When the galaxy learned that humans possessed overwhelming military superiority, the response had been unprecedented. Instead of forming alliances against humanity, most species had requested protection under human leadership. Refugee relocation operations? Sarah asked. Proceeding ahead of schedule, replied Commander Vector, the young Korthak who had grown up at Harmony Station and was now one of Sarah's most trusted officers. We've successfully relocated over 2 million war refugees to safe worlds in the past 6 months. No incidents of ethnic conflict in any of the new settlements. Sarah smiled. Vector had become living proof of what Harmony Station represented. A former enemy species orphan was now coordinating humanitarian operations across the galaxy, working alongside humans and dozens of other species as if they had always been allies. What about the resistance movements? Sarah asked. Thexkar spoke up, his voice carrying a weight of experience. 3 remaining hegemony hardliner factions are still operating in the Outer Rim. They're calling for renewed attacks on human facilities, but they're finding little support. Most hegemony member species have joined the GPS voluntarily. It was strange to see the former admiral in his new role, after spending several weeks at Harmony Station, witnessing firsthand how human caretakers worked with alien children. Thexkar had undergone what could only be described as a complete philosophical transformation. He now headed the GPS's enemy rehabilitation program, working to convince hostile forces that cooperation was more beneficial than conflict. Director, interrupted Lieutenant Commander Sarah Webb, Dr. Marcus Webb's daughter, who had joined the GPS after completing her military academy training. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Andromedan Contact Commission. Sarah's attention sharpened. The Andromedans were a recently discovered species from outside the galaxy, technologically advanced and completely unknown in terms of intentions. First contact protocols were still being developed. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The holographic display filled with an image of a tall, graceful being with crystalline features and 4 arms that ended in delicate manipulator appendages. When it spoke, its voice was like music. Greetings, Director Chen of the Galactic Protection Service. I am Ambassador Cathera of the Andromedan Collective. We have been observing your species and your recent activities. Sarah kept her expression neutral. Ambassador, we appreciate your contact. How can the GPS assist you? We have come to understand that your organization exists primarily to protect the young and vulnerable across the galaxy. This is unusual in our experience. Most dominant species use their power for conquest and resource acquisition. The GPS operates under different principles, Sarah replied carefully. We believe that protecting the innocent makes the galaxy stronger for everyone. Ambassador Cathera's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. This is why we have come to you. Our own species faces a unique challenge. We reproduce by crystalline budding, but our young require specific environmental conditions to mature properly. Our home galaxy is becoming uninhabitable due to stellar radiation changes. Sarah began to understand where this was heading. How many young are we talking about, Ambassador? Approximately 8 million juveniles. They will die within 2 standard years if we cannot find suitable worlds for their development. The briefing room fell silent. 8 million refugees was a massive undertaking, even for the GPS. But Sarah had spent 30 years learning that no number was too large when children's lives were at stake. "We'll help," Sarah said without hesitation. "Director," Admiral Park said quietly, "we don't have existing protocols for Andromedan biology. We don't know their environmental requirements, their social structures, their—" "Then we'll learn," Sarah interrupted. "Ambassador Cathara, the GPS will provide whatever assistance you need. We'll find suitable worlds, arrange transportation, and ensure your young have safe places to mature." The Andromedan's crystalline features brightened noticeably. "This is unexpected. Our own projections suggested that any galactic power would demand significant compensation for such assistance." Sarah smiled. "Ambassador, the GPS doesn't charge fees for protecting children. That's not how we work. But surely you want something in return? Territory? Technology? Resources?" "We want your young to be safe," Sarah said simply. "That's all." Ambassador Cathara was quiet for several moments. When she spoke again, her musical voice carried undertones of wonder. "Director Chen, our species has existed for over 10 million years. We have contacted thousands of civilizations across multiple galaxies. You are the first we have encountered who offered help without seeking advantage." The communication continued for another hour, working out preliminary details for the massive relocation effort. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her staff. "Admiral Park, I want preliminary survey teams dispatched to 17 systems with environmental characteristics that might suit Andromedan physiology. Commander Vector, coordinate with our xenobiology teams to understand their developmental requirements. Specialist Thexkar, prepare cultural integration protocols." As her officers dispersed to their tasks, Sarah walked to the large viewing window that looked out on the GPS fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species worked together in formations that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Human dreadnoughts flew alongside Altarian cruisers, vegan medical ships, and Rigelian fighters. "Director?" came a young voice behind her. Sarah turned to see David, the 16-year-old human who had questioned her during that first assembly at Harmony Station. He was now 18 and wore the uniform of a GPS cadet. "What is it, David?" "I just wanted to say, when you told us that humans were good at protecting people we care about, I didn't really understand what that meant." "Now I think I do," Sarah smiled. "What do you think it means?" David gestured toward the window, toward the impossible fleet of former enemies working together. "It means we don't just protect the children at Harmony Station. We protect everyone's children everywhere, even children from species we've never met before." "That's exactly right," Sarah said. "And David? That's why the galaxy doesn't fear human military power anymore. They know we'll only use it to protect the innocent." A communication alert sounded, indicating another incoming priority transmission. Sarah activated the display to see Fleet Admiral Harrison calling from Earth. "Sarah, I have news. The Galactic Council has voted to formally recognize the GPS as the official peacekeeping force for known space. Unanimous vote. Every species, including the former hegemony members." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. "What does that mean practically?" "It means that what started as the defense of 800 children has become the foundation for the first truly unified galactic civilization." "Congratulations, Sarah. You've changed everything." As Harrison's image faded, Sarah looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 8 million Andromedan children were depending on her. Somewhere else, human ships were protecting refugee convoys from species she had never heard of. And in 100 different systems, children of 100 different species were growing up, knowing that someone would always be there to protect them. The galaxy had learned what happened when someone threatened Earth's orphanage. Now they were discovering what happened when Earth adopted the entire galaxy. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed total war 6 months after the Battle of Harmony Station. The galaxy was a very different place. Sarah stood in the newly constructed command center of the Galactic Protection Service headquarters, watching status reports from across known space. What had started as the defense of a single orphanage had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. "Director Chen," came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Captain Elizabeth Park, now promoted to Admiral and serving as Sarah's second in command. "The morning briefing is ready." Sarah nodded and followed Park into the main briefing room. The assembled officers represented 43 different species, all united under the banner of the GPS. At the head of the table sat an unlikely figure, former Admiral Thexkar, now wearing the uniform of a GPS rehabilitation specialist. "Status report," Sarah requested. Admiral Park activated the holographic display. Current GPS fleet strength stands at 12,000 vessels from 87 member species. We have operational bases in over 300 systems and mutual defense treaties with 2/3 of the galaxy's independent worlds. The display showed the true scope of what humanity had unleashed. When the galaxy learned that humans possessed overwhelming military superiority, the response had been unprecedented. Instead of forming alliances against humanity, most species had requested protection under human leadership. "Refugee relocation operations?" Sarah asked. "Proceeding ahead of schedule," replied Commander Vector, the young Korthak who had grown up at Harmony Station and was now one of Sarah's most trusted officers. "We've successfully relocated over 2 million war refugees to safe worlds in the past 6 months. No incidents of ethnic conflict in any of the new settlements." Sarah smiled. Vector had become living proof of what Harmony Station represented. A former enemy species orphan was now coordinating humanitarian operations across the galaxy, working alongside humans and dozens of other species as if they had always been allies. "What about the resistance movements?" Sarah asked. Thexkar spoke up, his voice carrying a weight of experience. 3 remaining hegemony hardliner factions are still operating in the Outer Rim. They're calling for renewed attacks on human facilities, but they're finding little support. Most hegemony member species have joined the GPS voluntarily. It was strange to see the former admiral in his new role, after spending several weeks at Harmony Station, witnessing firsthand how human caretakers worked with alien children. Thexkar had undergone what could only be described as a complete philosophical transformation. He now headed the GPS's enemy rehabilitation program, working to convince hostile forces that cooperation was more beneficial than conflict. "Director," interrupted Lieutenant Commander Sarah Webb, Dr. Marcus Webb's daughter, who had joined the GPS after completing her military academy training. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Andromedan Contact Commission." Sarah's attention sharpened. The Andromedans were a recently discovered species from outside the galaxy, technologically advanced and completely unknown in terms of intentions. First contact protocols were still being developed. "Put it through," Sarah ordered. The holographic display filled with an image of a tall, graceful being with crystalline features and 4 arms that ended in delicate manipulator appendages. When it spoke, its voice was like music. "Greetings, Director Chen of the Galactic Protection Service. I am Ambassador Cathera of the Andromedan Collective. We have been observing your species and your recent activities." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "Ambassador, we appreciate your contact. How can the GPS assist you? We have come to understand that your organization exists primarily to protect the young and vulnerable across the galaxy. This is unusual in our experience. Most dominant species use their power for conquest and resource acquisition. The GPS operates under different principles," Sarah replied carefully. "We believe that protecting the innocent makes the galaxy stronger for everyone." Ambassador Cathera's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. "This is why we have come to you. Our own species faces a unique challenge. We reproduce by crystalline budding, but our young require specific environmental conditions to mature properly. Our home galaxy is becoming uninhabitable due to stellar radiation changes." Sarah began to understand where this was heading. "How many young are we talking about, Ambassador?" "Approximately 8 million juveniles. They will die within 2 standard years if we cannot find suitable worlds for their development." The briefing room fell silent. 8 million refugees was a massive undertaking, even for the GPS. But Sarah had spent 30 years learning that no number was too large when children's lives were at stake. "We'll help," Sarah said without hesitation. "Director," Admiral Park said quietly, "we don't have existing protocols for Andromedan biology. We don't know their environmental requirements, their social structures, Then we'll learn," Sarah interrupted. "Ambassador Cathera, the GPS will provide whatever assistance you need. We'll find suitable worlds, arrange transportation, and ensure your young have safe places to mature." The Andromedan's crystalline features brightened noticeably. "This is unexpected. Our own projections suggested that any galactic power would demand significant compensation for such assistance. Sarah smiled. Ambassador, the GPS doesn't charge fees for protecting children. That's not how we work. But surely you want something in return? Territory? Technology? Resources? We want your young to be safe, Sarah said simply. That's all. Ambassador Cathera was quiet for several moments. When she spoke again, her musical voice carried undertones of wonder. Director Chen, our species has existed for over 10 million years. We have contacted thousands of civilizations across multiple galaxies. You are the first we have encountered who offered help without seeking advantage. The communication continued for another hour, working out preliminary details for the massive relocation effort. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her staff. Admiral Park, I want preliminary survey teams dispatched to 17 systems with environmental characteristics that might suit Andromedan physiology. Commander Vector, coordinate with our xenobiology teams to understand their developmental requirements. Specialist Thexcar, prepare cultural integration protocols. As her officers dispersed to their tasks, Sarah walked to the large viewing window that looked out on the GPS fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species worked together in formations that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Human dreadnoughts flew alongside Altarian cruisers, vegan medical ships, and Rigelian fighters. Director? Came a young voice behind her. Sarah turned to see David, the 16-year-old human who had questioned her during that first assembly at Harmony Station. He was now 18 and wore the uniform of a GPS cadet. What is it, David? I just wanted to say, when you told us that humans were good at protecting people we care about, I didn't really understand what that meant. Now I think I do, Sarah smiled. What do you think it means? David gestured toward the window, toward the impossible fleet of former enemies working together. It means we don't just protect the children at Harmony Station. We protect everyone's children everywhere, even children from species we've never met before. That's exactly right, Sarah said. And David? That's why the galaxy doesn't fear human military power anymore. They know we'll only use it to protect the innocent. A communication alert sounded, indicating another incoming priority transmission. Sarah activated the display to see Fleet Admiral Harrison calling from Earth. Sarah, I have news. The Galactic Council has voted to formally recognize the GPS as the official peacekeeping force for known space. Unanimous vote. Every species, including the former hegemony members. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. What does that mean practically? It means that what started as the defense of 800 children has become the foundation for the first truly unified galactic civilization. Congratulations, Sarah. You've changed everything. As Harrison's image faded, Sarah looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 8 million Andromedan children were depending on her. Somewhere else, human ships were protecting refugee convoys from species she had never heard of. And in 100 different systems, children of 100 different species were growing up, knowing that someone would always be there to protect them. The galaxy had learned what happened when someone threatened Earth's orphanage. Now they were discovering what happened when Earth adopted the entire galaxy. When Earth's orphanage fell, humanity unleashed Total War 5 years after the Battle of Harmony Station. Sarah Chen stood in the memorial garden that had been built in the station's central hub. Plaques honored the 41 humans who had died defending the orphanage, but also the thousands of beings from across the galaxy who had given their lives in GPS operations since then. The station itself had grown enormously. What had once housed 800 children now provided homes for over 15,000 young beings from 137 different species. The recreation dome had been expanded into multiple complexes, each designed to accommodate the needs of different physiologies and cultures. Miss Sarah, called a familiar voice. Sarah turned to see Kira running toward her, no longer the small purple-furred cub, but now a young adult vegan with her own children in tow. I wanted you to meet my twins. Sarah knelt down to greet two small vegan cubs who looked exactly like their mother had 25 years ago. They're beautiful, Kira. What are their names? This is Sarah, Kira said, indicating the first cub. And this is Chen, pointing to the second. I named them after the human who saved my life. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. In 25 years of running orphanages, she had never stopped being amazed by the resilience and love of the children she helped raise. Kira, what brings you back to Harmony Station? I wanted my children to see where their mother grew up, Kira replied. And I wanted to volunteer for the new program. I heard you're taking in refugees from the Magellanic Clouds. Sarah nodded. The Magellanic Clouds were experiencing a devastating war between machine intelligences and organic species. The GPS had recently voted to accept 2 million refugees from the conflict, including nearly 500,000 children who had lost their parents. We can always use experienced volunteers, Sarah said, especially ones who understand what these children are going through. They were interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. Director Chen, please report to the command center. Priority message from Admiral Harrison. Sarah said goodbye to Kira and her children, then made her way through corridors that buzzed with activity. The station now served not just as an orphanage, but as the administrative center for GPS humanitarian operations. Staff members from dozens of species worked side by side, coordinating relief efforts across the galaxy. In the command center, Admiral Harrison's image was waiting, along with several other figures Sarah recognized as the GPS High Command. Sarah, we have a situation, Harrison began without preamble. Long-range sensors have detected something unprecedented approaching from intergalactic space. The holographic display shifted to show a tactical readout that made Sarah's breath catch. Thousands of contacts were approaching the galaxy, moving in perfect formation at speeds that challenged known physics. Machine intelligence? Sarah asked. That was our first thought, but the energy signatures are biological. These appear to be living ships, possibly a hive mind species. Their trajectory will bring them into contact with our outer colonies in approximately 6 months. Sarah studied the data carefully. Have we attempted communication? Every frequency, every protocol we know. No response. They're not actively jamming us, but they show no acknowledgement of our signals either. Admiral Park appeared on the display from her position, commanding the GPS First Fleet. Director, based on their formation and approach vector, our tactical analysis suggests this is either an invasion force or a massive migration. How massive? Sarah asked. Conservative estimates suggest over 50 million individuals across those ships. If they're refugees, it would be the largest displacement event in galactic history. If they're invaders, Park's expression was grim. Sarah considered the options. The GPS now commanded the largest military force in the galaxy, with over 40,000 ships and the support of nearly every known species. They could meet this approaching fleet with overwhelming force, destroy them before they could threaten anyone. But Sarah had spent 30 years learning that the most dangerous assumption was that someone else intended harm. Admiral Harrison, I want to take a diplomatic mission to meet them at the edge of the galaxy. If they're refugees, they need our help. If they're invaders, we need to understand why. Sarah, that's incredibly dangerous. We have no idea what we're dealing with. Then it's time to find out, Sarah replied. How long would it take to assemble a small diplomatic fleet? Sarah, interrupted a new voice. Former Admiral Thexkar entered the command center, now wearing the insignia of a GPS senior diplomatic officer. If you're planning a first contact mission, I request permission to accompany you. Sarah looked at the former enemy who had become one of her most trusted advisors. Thexkar, this could be the most dangerous diplomatic mission in galactic history. Director, 5 years ago I came to destroy an orphanage because I was afraid of humans. You taught me that fear creates enemies where none need exist. If these beings are coming here out of fear or desperation, someone needs to show them that the galaxy has learned a better way. Sarah nodded slowly. Admiral Harrison, I want a diplomatic fleet ready in 72 hours. Include representatives from as many GPS member species as possible. If we're going to make first contact with a potentially hostile force, we should show them that the galaxy can work together. And if they are hostile? Harrison asked. Sarah's expression hardened slightly, showing the admiral she had once been. Then they'll discover that the galaxy has learned to work together in that regard as well. 3 days later, the GPS diplomatic fleet departed for the edge of the galaxy. 50 ships carrying diplomats, xenobiologists, linguists, and cultural specialists from over 30 species. At the center of the formation flew the ship carrying Sarah Chen and her senior staff. As they traveled toward the unknown, Sarah stood in her quarters looking at photos that covered one wall. Images of children from every species she had ever helped, now grown into adults with families of their own. Many of them served in the GPS, working to protect other children across the galaxy. Director, came a voice from her communicator. It was David, now a full admiral commanding his own fleet. We're approaching the outer marker. Long-range sensors confirm the alien fleet is maintaining course. Sarah activated the ship-wide communication system. This is Director Chen to all vessels. We are about to make contact with an unknown species that could represent either the greatest refugee crisis or the greatest threat in galactic history. Remember that our actions in the next few hours will determine whether peace or war defines the next era. She paused, thinking of all the children currently safe in GPS facilities, all the families that had been reunited, all the species that had learned to work together instead of fighting. 5 years ago, someone attacked Harmony Station because they were afraid of what humans might become. They discovered that humans become dangerous only when children are threatened. Today we represent something new, an entire galaxy united to protect the innocent. Whatever we find out there, we will meet it not as separate species competing for resources, but as a unified civilization committed to the principle that every child deserves to grow up safe. As the diplomatic fleet approached the edge of known space, Sarah prepared for whatever awaited them. The galaxy had learned what happened when someone threatened Earth's orphanage. They had learned what happened when Earth decided to protect everyone's children. Now they were about to discover what happened when an entire galaxy, united under human leadership, but strengthened by the diversity of 100 species, chose to meet the unknown with hope instead of fear. The approaching ships were massive, unlike anything in galactic databases. But as Sarah watched them on the tactical display, she noticed something that made her smile. The formation wasn't military, it was protective. The largest ships were on the outside, the smaller ones clustered in the center. It was the formation of parents protecting their young. "All ships," Sarah ordered, "power down weapons and activate universal peace signals. We're not meeting an invasion force. We're meeting the largest family in the universe. And they're scared." As the two fleets approached each other in the darkness between stars, Sarah Chen prepared to do what she had always done best: welcome strangers and help them find their way home. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their hidden weapons or secret fleets. It was their willingness to see potential friends instead of certain enemies, to offer help instead of demanding surrender, to protect children instead of conquering worlds. And now that strength belonged to everyone.